Summer vacation is finally here, and with it, the intense heat and sticky weather that follows such an event are here too. Yet as much as I hate being sticky and hot during summer, as it is my worst season ever, growing up as a kid, I used to love it quite dearly, to an unknown extent even. This made me think and ask myself, why would anybody love such a weather? Let alone a kid who would spend most of his days at home watching TV or talking to his imaginary friends. And after countless minutes of thinking in the general direction, an idea came to my mind, which was that I was just happy to be free from school in its entirety, even if for some months at most at a time. And while of course it is a given that most, if not all, kids enjoy summer break to get away from school, for me it felt as if it was getting away from a strict camp and going back to living like a real human being for some months before ultimately restarting the cycle. See, one of my biggest feats as a kid was that I was a bit too mature for my age due to family surroundings and environments I grew up with countless older figures in my life, which ultimately led me to adapt their way of thinking and processing certain things, which are in no way suitable for a young teenager. And while on the surface all seemed well, deep down, school was not only something I despised, but it was something I had quite deeply hated growing up, even though I scored one of the highest grades in my year during my graduation. For my entire time at school, I managed to thankfully collect countless stories that might sound insane for a lot of people, especially since they happened to a child at the time. And what better way to mention such situations and stories than talk about them during the start of a summer season, so we can at least enjoy some moments in this blazing heat. One of those situations would have to be how I managed to get a scar the size of 3 fingers on my shoulders due to how heavy my bag would have been when I would be heading to school, which would weigh anywhere between 25 kilograms to 35 kilograms on the busiest days, and that does not include textbooks, which would have been often carried by hand all the time as well. And while carrying it alone might not seem to be a big issue, going up 3 flats of stairs and back down multiple times during the day to commute between classes surely did a number on me back then, with that weight still intact. And while speaking of commuting, we just cannot forget the commute I had to go through to go from and to school as well, which would have taken anywhere between 2 to 3 hours due to how traffic was back in the day. And on the off chance I would miss my school bus, then the true adventure would genuinely begin. With my daily allowance of $3 in hand, that would have to suffice me for foods and drinks the entire day. I had to make do somehow and reach the school grounds that would usually take me about $20 to $30 to reach if I would take a taxi, since I lived in a different city. And the scolding I would get if my family found that I missed my bus would be horrific, mainly because they would have to explain to their higher-ups at work why they cannot attend work that day, since the traffic would be so bad that they would have to miss a half day worth of work most of the time. So instead of taking a cab or public transportation, if they work that is, yours truly would sometimes share a taxi with random tourists or workers in order to cut costs, or even take a cab at the edge of the city in order to jump over a fence and cross cities to avoid paying an extra fee one might have to pay to the cab driver. And worry not, as an outstanding citizen, I can assure you it is 100% legal as well. Yet the journey wouldn't genuinely end there, usually as I would have to walk an hour or more to get to my classroom from the moment I crossed the city's boundaries in the blazing heat. So the weather ranges anywhere between 25 Celsius to 50 Celsius on the worst days. And of course, we cannot forget my mighty Thor hammer of a backpack that has my educational supplies and books as well, as it would have been glued to my back the entire time. And sometimes I wondered why I developed back pain and scars growing up. And if I would feel fancy and had actually saved up some money over the week, I could use it for emergency rides to save me the hour of walking by taking a taxi to my school from the border of the city. Though that was usually saved for an actual emergency, basically days of exams or final assessments only. If it was not graded, it was not needed. And the most fascinating part of it all during those days would have been the fact that my cab drivers would avoid workers and school kids on purpose to pick up the tourist lady with super notable fashion sense because they would ask to go to further away places than us, which would yield more income for the taxi driver as well. So between standings on impromptu lines for those cabs in the middle of the road and waiting on my nerves for hours for them to arrive, what would always be covered is that they would skip me 9 times out of the 10 because I was a school student with barely any allowance other than for the small trip to my school. And this would also apply on if I was heading back home from school and had happened to miss my bus as well, which would of course be more of a rare occasion than anything. But it did happen, mainly during my last years of high school, where I would take a bit of time to get out of my classes since I would be in a bad mental space or waiting on some papers from my schools to give them to my college, and so on. Ultimately, that would yield for the bus driver leaving me behind on my own often at the peak hours of heat during the day. And at that point, you just discover new quirks and abilities that you never thought you had while walking for such long and tedious hours. Such abilities could be cleaning your eyelids with your own hands during a sandstorm to avoid any eye issues, or even using your thick hoodie at 35 degrees Celsius as a headscarf to avoid getting sunburned while walking, since of course having shades for the pedestrians had yet to be invented back then. Now going forward and afterwards, the individuals you would be placed with during your time at school, which could turn out to be your best friends for the longest period of time, or your worst marriage experience in life where you are not only married to all of them, but rather forced into a situationship that you have no idea what to do with other than try to survive. From the smartest people to the absolute weirdest, and I'm proud to say I've met them all during my time there. People who would take international tests in biology and chemistry for the sake of doing it out of boredom, while others would be dealers of rather explicit content and albums on their Blackberries or early iPods and iPhones, while having all of them be in 180p. And to just think about the fact that all of those people are in the same place, in the same class, under the same roof as well. But I would say the environment plays a key turn in the development of children during their school days, which in my case could be the key feature of why I hated that place to begin with, and to why I became a VTuber too, perhaps. See, the school that I was in was said to have originally been designed to be an asylum for the mentally ill individuals. However, the owner scratched the idea towards the end of the project as it was not profitable for him, and instead changed the project to become an all-inclusive school from kindergarten to high school as an educational institute as well. And this is more on the alleged side of things, but on the other end of things, that doesn't sound that bad and is rather valid as well. However, it all changes when you would see how some teachers and students would be assigned to specific classes and areas as well. For as far as I could recall from my last 3 years of school, we had a room that used to be a store for unwanted and unused books that was refurbished to become a teacher's office, and such an office would barely fit 3 people inside of it at once, with zero natural ventilation inside or any sort of sunlight hitting it. Now, I hate the heat from the sun as much as the next guy, but having an environment like that would drive any adult absolutely nuts, let alone children coming to seek guidance from such adults. And what better way to invite children to school than to have it painted in bright red as well, because that surely would not be something the kids will remember growing up. Not at all. Though to their benefit, I had visited the area recently, around last week, and after more than 10 years of my graduation, they had changed about 50% of it and just turned it into white color instead of red, which means they are slightly changing towards the better. Or so I hope at the very least. And while many people would have loved summer breaks for countless other reasons, I'd say for me at least, I was just happy to be free from the insanity I was seeing during my school days. Even if that meant I would be melting like crazy in the heat. Although that cannot be as true for me now as an adult, as my #1 arch nemesis is and always will be the heat. So do you guys think my reason for loving summer and its vibe, even as it was boiling outside back in the day, would have been valid? Or would you have still preferred to hate on it even after all of that? Also, what would you do during your summer breaks as well during those days? It's always interesting to learn about other countries' summer breaks of those times as well, as it fascinates me a lot. So leave that in the comment alongside a like and a subscribe if you haven't done that already. And stay safe everyone, while staying hydrated of course, because this heat wave that's happening surely is taking the best out of us to survive it. And see you guys in the next one.